All right. Hello, hello, hello. Let's get some things going on here. All right. Oh, hello. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Chat with Madam Whip-Ass. Early AM edition. It is Tuesday, December 19th, 2017. Oh, my stars. Today, my best friend would have been 51 years old. Yeah, she died 30 years ago, earlier this month. She was 21. No, well, she was 20. She died like a couple of weeks before her birthday. And I guess I'll make this stream about her. Sharis was her name. We met. She's a year older than me. Oh my God, I think I was 12. Yeah, I was 12 and she was 13 when we met. I don't know how we met. I guess because her sister lived on my block. And Sharis was the youngest of 10 children. I think it was like 9 girls and 1 brother. And everybody was older than her. She was the only minor of her parents at that time. And I'm just having so many flashbacks of memories while I'm speaking. That's why I'm pausing a lot. But I remember it was at her brother's apartment, and he was in his early 20s. At the time, he had to be about 22, 23. But he had his own apartment. And I remember, and it was 4 blocks straight up the street from where I lived. And we went to his apartment one evening. Oh, it had to be about the fall. I know it was cold. Late fall, early winter. And I remember standing in his living room, and Sharis and her brother must have been in the bedroom or something, but he had this song playing on a record player. And I'm like 11, 12 years old. And I'm standing in the living room and I'm listening to this song. And I remember as he was walking through the living room, I said, "Who is this singing?" He said, "Oh, it's that guy there, Prince." And he pointed to the wall where he had the album cover hanging up on the wall. And I was standing there listening. For the very first time, the very first song I ever heard from Prince was "I Want to Be Your Lover." And it's amazing how I can remember the very first time I ever heard of Prince and seeing his picture, the album cover that was hanging on the wall. But anyway, so it was Shahadi and I and another friend. I'll call her Margie Mar. I ain't gonna give her name. And Shahadi and Margie Mar were the same age, a year older than me. And I was in Catholic school, and they went to public school. But the three of us, we were just so close. I remember my father taking us all to Coney Island. Those were some really good times. And Shahadi had a lot of nieces and nephews. A whole bunch of them, as you can imagine. But she had a whole lot of nieces and nephews that were older than her, like a year or two, sometimes 4 and 5 years older than her. And she had a whole bunch of nieces and nephews younger than her. It was a huge family. And so I used to always spend the night over her house. All three of us. Just really, really, really good times. And so, I think like after 2 years, well, no, maybe a year and a half or so of knowing her, her parents had bought this house. The parrots are having a night fright. But anyway, they had bought this house deep in Corona. All right. Okay. Chill. Deep in Corona. And it was in the Spanish section. And the block that she lived was a real long block. I mean, it just seemed like you had to walk forever once you got to the corner of her block before you would get to her house. And I remember we were coming from someplace going to a house, and we were walking down her long block. And she had only been there a few months, living there with her family. And everybody on the block was Spanish. They were the only black people on that block. And across the street were 3 Spanish brothers. Now, at the time, she's 14, I'm 13, right? And we're walking down this block, and she was telling me how she was messing with one of these Spanish brothers. There was 3 of them. One was 14, one was 15, one was 16. She was messing with the 14-year-old. I can't remember their names. But she said the 14-year-old was bisexual. The 15-year-old was gay. And the 16-year-old was gay also, but he wanted to have a sex change once he turned 18. And again, now this is the very first time I'm hearing these terms, bisexual, gay. And so I said to her, bisexual, what's that? Gay? What's that? And she said, well, if a bisexual is like girls who like girls and guys, or a guy who likes guys and girls, that's bisexual. If you're gay, if you're a girl, you like girls, and if you're she said she said somebody who's gay is like girls who sleep with girls and boys who sleep with boys. And if you're bisexual, you like to sleep. If you're a bisexual guy, you like to sleep with boys and girls. And if you're a bisexual girl, you like to sleep with girls and boys. And do you know, when she said that to me, I thought, oh, they just go to sleep. you know, snoring. And I thought that for years, because that's what she said. Girls would like to sleep with girls and boys would like to sleep with boys. But anyway, so she was dealing with the 14-year-old who was bisexual. Now, mind you, this is around 1981. And so, I don't know. I remember they lived like across the street from her. I remember going to their house with her. I remember talking to the 16-year-old. He always used to sit in the window, and he always had like a ponytail up on top of his head. And I remember asking him, he would be sitting in the window like doing his nails, painting his nails or something. And one day, the subject came up about him being gay and how he wants to have a sex change when he turns 18. And I was like, a sex change? Why do you want to do that? And he's like, because I want to be a woman. And still, I'm not grasping all of this at the age of 13. You know, whatever, man. So life goes on. I get into high school. I'm in 9th grade. They're in 10th grade. Still going to different schools. The two of them went to, well, Hardy and Margie Marr, they went to the same high school. I went to a different high school. But again, we were the best of friends. And so now they graduate high school a year before I did, of course. And Shawty goes off to college. Delaware State University. She's studying to become a gynecologist. Smart as a whip. And so, like, the last year of my senior year, I didn't keep in touch much with her, because she was already away at college. But Margie Marr did go to her college like one weekend and hang out with her. And so I'm in my senior year of high school, and I got my boyfriend I'm hanging out with. And, you know, it is what it is. So I graduate high school in 85. Don't see her much in 86, you know, because now I'm in college, I'm working full time, she's away at college, you know, and now it's July of 87, right? I'm working in the airport. By that time, I've been working in the airport well over a year and a half. Hey, y'all. Oh, no, I didn't leave YouTube. I just, I'm leaving the sector. But anyway, so it's July. And, I used to work for Marriott Host. I know who it is. I see you. And, Marriott Host was like a chain of restaurants within LaGuardia Airport. And so my shift was 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. And I'm walking through the airport on the outside of the building, you know, and, you know, walking through passengers, tourists, or whatever. And I'm trying to get to work because I'm on my way to work and I'm running late. I'm really rushing. And so, you know, it's always crowded. It's an airport, right? And so I'm walking, and I hear somebody call me. It's crowded, right? And I hear E. And I know the voice, and I'm looking, but I don't see, because, you know, it's a crowd of people. And so finally I see her, and we run and hug each other, and I'm hugging her, she's hugging me. And we are talking, and because I hadn't seen or talked to her in many months, and she was coming from Rochester. She had an older sister she used to always visit in Rochester, New York. And we were just talking, trying to catch up on stuff, and I'm running late for work, but I really can't talk. But then, this is my best friend. I love her like my sister. And so I'm trying to get to work, but she's still holding me there and talking, and we're talking. I'm like, I gotta get to work. I'll talk to you later. And so gave her a hug, and I started walking, and she called me again, and I turn around, and she says, E. And I turn around. She says, I finally decided to accept Jesus as my Lord and personal Savior. And I said, okay. I didn't really know what that meant either at the time. So I said, okay. So I said, I'll talk to you later, because I'm trying to get to work, right? So I start walking again. She calls me again, E. And I turn around. I say, why? She said, I love you. I said, I love you too, but I got to get to work. I'll call you later. And that was the last time I seen her. July of 1987. So fast forward to January 1988. You figure like 7 months later or so. 6 months later. And so it's January. It's cold outside. And Margie Moore calls me. And she says, when was the last time you spoke to Shahadi? And so I just told her everything I just told y'all about the last time I seen her and spoke to her. She said, listen, Janet told me that her mother told her that she ushered a funeral for some young girl at St. Mark's Church named Shahadi such and such. And I'm like, what? She said, yeah. And Janet swears that the name was Shahadi. So we're on the phone saying, well, it can't be our Shahadi because we would have known about it. And she said, yeah, and this took place like a few weeks ago. And so we're on the phone talking. And we're like, nah, can't be. So after about maybe 20 minutes, she says, you know what, hold on. Let's call her niece. And it was her niece who was about 5 years older than us. So we do a three-way. We call her niece, let's just say her name is Monica. Hey, Monica, how you doing? It's Marguerite and Madam Whip-Ass. Margie Moore and Madam Whip-Ass, right? And so we talking. And so Mark's like, hey, how you doing? Long time no see. What you been up to? Oh, I've been up to this and that and the other. The three of us are talking. I'm saying to myself, well, then it must not be true, because I'm sure she would have said something, Did you know? Have you heard? Didn't see you at the funeral? She doesn't say anything. And so we're talking about a good 15 minutes. And then finally, Margie Moore says, Monica, how is Shahadi doing? And Monica says, oh, you didn't know? Shahadi passed away about 2 weeks ago. I dropped the phone. I was in complete shock. Anyway, phone call concludes. Margie Moore calls me back. And we just couldn't believe it. We were like, how did this happen? And we didn't know. Nobody told us. It wasn't like Nobody in her family, they knew how close we were. It wasn't like nobody didn't know how to contact us. My parents were pillars in the community. Everybody knew me and my family. Not hard to find me at all. We just didn't understand, how did she die and buried and gone and we not know about it? Monica told us that Shahadi had pneumonia. And later on that evening, I don't know where my mom was that day. You know, my mother was a funeral director. And I don't know where she was, but it was in the evening. And I heard her come through the door. And I went to the stairs. I was standing at the top of the steps. And my mother was at the bottom of the steps. And I said, Mommy, Shahadi died. My mother said, what? When? What happened? How? And I said, I don't know. She died about 2-3 weeks ago. Well, what happened to her? I said, she had pneumonia. And it was a pause. And my mother looked at me and said, pneumonia? She said, that child died from AIDS. Because back in those days, in the early 80s, you know, AIDS was introduced to us, or we first heard about it in 1981, I believe. And I mean, when you got AIDS, you were out of here in a matter of months. Well, let me say, when you got infected, you were out of here in a matter of months. Because there was a difference, and it still is a difference between being infected and having AIDS. And what they were doing on the death certificate, they would put down that you died from pneumonia. Because that's what a lot of people were dying from, but they really had AIDS. And people don't die from pneumonia unless you're a little itty bitty baby or you're a real old elderly person. But if you're in your 20s, you know, 30s, 40s, you get pneumonia, you pretty much get over it. So I never really got over losing my friend. And I guess, and Margie Moore either. And I guess it's because we didn't get a chance to say goodbye. And the issue was that there was such shame and embarrassment and such a stigma on people who had AIDS in the 80s. And the family was just so embarrassed and ashamed that they didn't tell anybody. Her father was really, really upset. And it wasn't until 1996, 9 years later, that I got the full story from one of her nieces who was I guess she was a teenager at the time that Shahadi passed. And when I finally got to talk to her, she might have been 20 at the time. And this was a niece that looks exactly like her. Oh my goodness. And so I used to always have these dreams of Shahadi. And it's always like in a crowded place. Like, I'll be going to get on the train and, New York subway, and it's always crowds of people, and I'm going through the turnstile and she's coming through the gate, and we see each other and we hug each other, and it's like, oh, I got so much to tell you, and we just hugging each other and running over to a bench and sit down and talk, and like we'll be having a verbal conversation about shopping or something, but then at the same time we're having this mental conversation, at the same time we're having this verbal conversation. And like, as we're speaking about shopping verbally, mentally we're having this conversation, and I'm saying, did you die? Are you dead? Did you die? And she would say, yes, I passed away, but it's okay. And I mean, through the years, I would have similar dreams like that. I'd be walking in Flushing. Streets are crowded. I see her. We run and hug each other. Oh, I got so much to tell you. I've been seeing you in such a long time. I miss you, I miss you, I miss you. And again, we could be talking about, I don't know, the zoo verbally. But then we having this mental conversation. And I'm asking her, are you dead? Did you die? Did you leave me? And she would say, yes, I left, but it's okay. And then the last time I had a dream about her, again, we're someplace, crowded place, see each other. Here we go with this verbal and mental conversation going on at the same time. Are you dead? Did you die? Are you really dead? Yes. But it's okay. And I said to her, okay, so if it has to be this way, it is okay, just as long as I can always see you in my dreams. And I woke up. So one day, I'm on Junction in this store, looking for some clothes. It's the springtime. And it's 1996. I'm in the store looking at clothes, and I just happen to look across the store, and I see this girl. And looks just like Shahadi. And I'm standing there looking. And I start walking because this is Shahadi. And I looked and walked. It was her niece who's just all grown up. Oh my God, they look like twins. I saw her and just busted out crying. And she was there with her mother, which was Shahadi's older sister. And I just couldn't help it because it was just, I don't know. I just lost it. And so they invited me over. And long story short, the niece told me what happened. And she said that when Shahadi went to Delaware State University, she had met this guy. I don't know what the heck happened, but they just know he died like 3 months before she did. And so it's Thanksgiving, 1987. She finished out her courses before the Thanksgiving break. She was so sick, but she drove herself home from college, which was like 3.5 hours. She drove herself home. They said she pulled up in front of the house. She was so sick and weak that they had to carry her in the house, out of the car. And the family was very religious, so they put her in the bed and they was just praying for her. That's what they did. They prayed. And one of the older sisters that lived in Rochester, she heard what was going on, and she came down to see her, and she was like, what is wrong with y'all? Get her to the hospital. So they get her to the hospital. And they said when they went to visit her, they all had to put on these suits and masks and gloves and to go inside the room and visit her. And they said she was always thin as a rail, but they were like, nah, she lost so much weight. It wasn't even, it was just horrible. It was horrible. And she passed away early December. So I always think about her. I have never forgotten her. And today she would be 51 years old. She didn't have any children. She was funny. She was spoiled. Spoiled rotten, being the baby. And I finally went to go see her mom also. Well, the niece, her sister, and the mom, they all lived in the same house. And so, yeah, the day that they took her out of the house to the hospital, her mother just shut the room to the door to her room. And nobody ever went back in that room again. So now, I mean, this is 1987 when she passed. It's 1996. Nobody had ever been in that room since 1987. And she had a small closet in her room. And like I said, she was spoiled. She had so many clothes. So she also used there was a closet in the hallway outside of her room. And she used that closet for her clothes too. And her clothes are still hanging in that closet in the hallway. Because I remember her mother showing me, but she wouldn't open the door to her room. She said nobody has ever been in that room since. And I looked, she opened the closet door. I'm looking at Jordache jeans, Sergio Valente jeans, all the jeans that just neatly hung up like she would have hung up her jeans. I'm looking at her snowsuit. I mean, I'm like, wow. I don't know at what point, if they ever did open up her room. I imagine that they have had to by now. Her mom just recently passed last year, 2016, in the summer. But that was very unhealthy. That's called mummification. When mummification is when a loved one passes away and you're not able to move on. It's okay, when someone passes away, you gotta, clear out their belongings and things like that. It's okay not to go ahead and do that right away if you need some time. But at some point, when it goes into years and you just mummify their bedroom, meaning nobody ever enters that bedroom again, that door stays shut, that's unhealthy. That's an unhealthy way of grieving. And that means, you haven't completed the grieving process, which is 5 stages. It's shock, denial, anger, bargaining, and acceptance. And some people never get to the acceptance, the final stage of grief. And, you know, you might stay in denial for a long time during the stage of grief. You know, or you might be stuck in the anger stage. And sometimes you'll go back and forth between denial and anger. But at some point, you got to get to the stage of acceptance. And once you have accepted the passing of your loved one, then your grieving process is over. And at this point, it had been 9 years, and her mother had not gotten to the acceptance stage of grief. That's unhealthy. But anyway, I have a friend that was diagnosed HIV positive in 1987, and he's still alive and kicking. Only been sick one time. That was the time he found out he had gotten sick, and that's when he found out he had HIV. And I mean, he was really sick in the hospital for like 2 weeks, but he recovered and ain't been sick since. Other than a cold or something. He don't even take medication, and he's HIV. I don't know what kind of strain he got. So he's been diagnosed for a good 30 years. No telling how long he had it before he found out he had it. But my friend was one of millions of people. I don't know. It's definitely a different strain. And once you got infected, you went downhill and you were out of here in less than 6 months. So, I miss my friend. I think about her all the time. The memories I have of her just seems like it was yesterday. Doesn't seem over 30, 35, even 40 years ago. Doesn't seem like that at all. I still can hear her voice. I still can hear her laughter. I have pictures. And that's it. I'm happy for technology. You know, when I think about my mom, when my mom lost her mother, my grandmother, when my grandmother passed, you know, for the rest of my mother's life, all she had was her memories of her mother. You know, the memory of her voice, of her mother's voice, you know. But I have not only the memory of my mother's voice and the memory of my mother, but I have, you know, technology has allowed me to have my mother's voice recorded. Where, you know, when I start missing my mother, I can put in this CD and hear her talk, hear her laugh, you know. And the same thing with my dad. I got him on a tape, a cassette tape, talking, him and his best friend hanging out at a bar in the Bronx, I believe, or Harlem. They brought a tape recorder with him and just sat it at the bar and pressed record. And you hear the music in the background and they conversing with different ones in the bar, flirting with the bartender. And, you know, so when I miss them, I can pop in that tape and listen to my dad. Or I can pop in the CD and listen to my mom. But my parents didn't have that because the technology wasn't there. You know, I could put in a videotape and see my parents live and in action, you know. I think that's a blessing. A huge blessing. But I don't have any of those things for my dear friend. I just have my memory and a picture. And that's that. But I miss her. I really do. Alright, so I just had to share that. Let me go look in the chat and see what folks talking about. Where's the chat? I hate this thing. Chat disappears. Hey, Sonny. Hey, V Boogie. You keep losing channels, V Boogie. And there is Onyx and Finance. Why was the message? Why was Finance emoji girl's message deleted? Okay. All right. Let me just say this. If you have a wrench in my chat room and you got issues with somebody, please don't block them. I can't see if you blocked or banned them, but please don't do that because you have an issue with them in my chat room. Please. I can't see, it just says message deleted by Mama Sita. So it's possible. No, she's not blocked. Okay. All right. As long as she's not blocked. But yeah, please don't do that. I'd greatly appreciate it. All right. That's enough of me sharing the story about my dear friend. It's all good. Today she would be 51 years old. It's all good. I just wish there was a cure. I wish she had the strain where she didn't get sick and she'd still be here, just HIV positive like another friend of mine. Everybody else I know that was infected, they just out of here. Most of them went real quick in the 80s if they got infected in the 80s. But now, you know, people are living longer. I met a 16-year-old who is infected. 16, yes, a few months ago. And, you know, she ain't stressing about it like people stressed in the 80s and the 90s. She said the doctor told her there should be a cure in another 15 years. She said, I'll be in my early 30s and there'll be a cure by then. She said, as long as I keep taking my medication, I'll be alive. But she ain't stressing. I remember back in the 80s and the 90s, man, the medications they had, you were taking like 30-something pills a day. When you were HIV, you had to take like 30 pills a day. No joke, no exaggeration. And then by the early 2000s, late 90s, there was a cocktail. It just went down to 3 pills. And now today it's just 1 pill you have to take. But in those days, in the 80s and 90s, my goodness, people were just so sick of swallowing these pills. And they were just giving up. I'm not sure, but check for finance emoji girl. It doesn't look like she's blocked, but I'm on my cell phone and it's, different than being on the laptop or the computer. But just check. I know you deleted her message. Accidents do happen. Girl, I don't know. How do you do that? Just scroll up to her name. And maybe you can see if it says you banned her or just the message is deleted. Yeah, these things happen. Shoot, I was in Onyx chat last week and she blocked me and didn't know it. But, yeah. Scientifically, the fight against HIV and AIDS really has come a long way. You figure in 2000, 37 years we've been dealing with this disease? 37 years. Wow. But yeah, I often wish that, damn, if she had to be infected, if that was her fate. I wish it didn't happen at all, but if that's what had to happen, I just wish it would have happened, years down the road where she'd still be here, if that's what had to happen. But yeah, all of a sudden, just people started dropping dead like flies in the neighborhood. And I remember when HIV and AIDS was first introduced into the lexicon, being in the funeral business, all the funeral directors, when they went to get a body, or if the family told them, called and said, person passed away from pneumonia, funeral homes were not accepting those cases. Because at the time, I'm talking about in the beginning, when it was first introduced to the community, as far as us being informed about it, nobody had a clear understanding. We didn't know if it wasn't clear whether or not you can contract it from being airborne once you open up a body, and nobody knew. That information was sketchy. It was unclear. It was very early on, and even the doctors didn't know much about it, And so funeral directors weren't taking any chances, They have families and loved ones. And so, when you're dealing with the deceased, and most likely they have been autopsied. So when they come into the funeral home, we got to reopen them up. And nobody knew if you opened up a body, was the disease, would it go airborne? Could you contract it by inhaling, breathing? Funeral directors weren't sure, so the code cause of death, pneumonia, they would refuse the cases. And then I remember a lot of funeral directors, they began going to like workshops and stuff, getting more information about, how to deal with AIDS cases, and there were certain procedures, precautions they had to take when dealing with AIDS-related cases and things of that nature. But it was a scary time. It was a scary, scary, scary time. And so, again, I was 13 when we, were first informed about HIV and AIDS. And, when you're 13, 14, a teenager, you're invincible. That stuff always happens to other people. It's not going to happen to me. Whatever. It just seems so foreign. That was the world's problem. It wasn't my problem. And I remember, it had to be around, let me think, 87. No, wait, let me think. No, more like 88. I had some friends. It was a married couple. Went to high school with her, and they got married young. They were both like soon, right after high school. A couple of months after graduating high school, they got married. They're probably still married today. I haven't spoken to them in years, but I remember I used to go and hang out with them, and my friend Tracy, she was like in the medical field doing something, and whatever she was doing, whether she was working at a hospital or something she was doing, where they had to have like HIV and AIDS training, where they were getting information or whatever. And she invited me over, and they both sat me down, and they were telling me about HIV and AIDS, and how to contract it and what it does. They were really educating me about it. I'll never forget that. And that was the point I really took this disease and what was going on in the community very, very seriously. Because she had just come out of a training or something about it. And I remember she was showing me, she gave me some information to read about it. And they just did that, and I guess they were doing that with everybody they knew. Even family, just sit down and say, hey, this is what's going on. It's an epidemic. It's serious. People have it. They don't know that they have it. You can't look at a person and tell that they have it. If you're going to be sexually active, you have to use a condom. But understand that condoms are not 100% effective. They do break. The best way to go is to abstain yourself from being sexually active. If you're thinking about being sexually active with somebody, both of y'all have this conversation. Y'all gotta, it's time to be mature and have a conversation. And if he's not willing to have a conversation about HIV and not willing to go get tested, then that's not the person for you, because it's serious out here. It's deadly, and it's not worth your life. And then even if y'all both decide to go and get tested, you need to wait another 6 months and get tested again just to be sure. Because that's how deep it, it was back in those days, back in the 80s. But these are what my peers were telling me. And how old was I? About in like 2021? We were all 2021. Her husband was probably 2 years older than us, or 3 years older than us. And so these are young adults. Now that I'm older and I'm reflecting on it, that's real cool to be 21. And a 21-year-old is like, hey, because of my job, I had to go to this training. And this is the information they passed out. Here, read this literature. I made copies for you. Talk to your family and your other friends about it. Yeah, man. And that's when I began to take that really serious. So yeah, so now in reflection, and when you think about fast forward to 2017, people still screw like bunny rabbits. People still throw caution to the wind. It's not serious. The attitude now is like, you know, it's not like I'm going to die if I do get infected. All I got to do is take a pill. And another attitude is, you know, they're very close to a cure anyway. Soon HIV will be like, you know, chicken pox and the mumps and the measles. You know, it'll be obsolete like that. You know, you'll be able to get vaccinated at some point and you won't have to worry about it. And people are living with HIV. So it ain't serious to people anymore. I remember we had this one case. This was like in 91. And my mother was doing a funeral arrangement with this young girl. And my mother called me downstairs to sit with her as she made arrangements. This young girl was a mother. When I tell you she was young, she was 23 years old. She was at the time, she was 23 years old. She came to make arrangements for her baby. Her baby was 5 months old and died. And she told us the baby, this is the early 90s now. This is what people were doing. She told us she had gotten infected with HIV at the age of 9. And at this time, she's 23. She said she was in a car accident. And she got infected through a blood transfusion. And she never told anybody. She had a 3-year-old son and this 5-month-old baby girl that passed away. Both of her kids were by the same dude. The 3-year-old son did not have HIV, but this baby did, and the baby died. She never told the father what the baby died of, at least not at that particular point in time, and she probably didn't. She never told the baby's father that she was HIV. She told the father that the baby had heart problems, and that's how the baby died. I was blown away. And when she left, Mommy was like, that's why I told you to come down here and sit down and listen to this. Because these people have HIV and they ain't telling a living fucking soul and don't give a shit. And that was early, that was like 91. A young girl, 23 years old. And when you're HIV and pregnant, when the baby is born, at least back in the day, I don't know what's going on with these strains today, but when a baby is born, a lot of times babies were born HIV positive as well. But, like, as babies, when they're born with their mother's immune system. So they're born with HIV. But a lot of times, by the time they turn 18 months, well, this is what always happens, the baby develops their own immune system. They kick their mother's immune system out. So a lot of times a baby is able to kick HIV out once they're along with their mother's immune system. And so they might be born HIV positive, but after 18 months, they're no longer infected. They no longer have it. That happens a lot with babies. And so apparently that's what happened with the 3-year-old son. And the 5-month-old baby, I guess it just turned to AIDS quickly, and that baby didn't survive. But yeah, so if people were being reckless and not revealing to people that they were HIV when it was at its deadliest point, well, now that there's pills and people believe that, you know, we're close to finding a cure for it, they ain't telling you today either. It is what it is. Oh, it's okay, Mama Cita. Mama Cita. These nuts. Yay. Anyway, that's all I had to share. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate it. Y'all just stay safe. Love your friends. You know, if you got good friends like I do, somebody who you know is a real good friend, hell, at this point, you might as well call them family, because that's what I do. They not even friends. They family at this point. When we've been friends since we were 5 years old and we are 50, we family, you know. But call your friends / family today and let them know you love them and how important they are to you, you know. It's good to do that. I called my friend yesterday. I guess she's going to call me back today. But this is my friend that we've been friends since kindergarten. And my other friend on December 7th, she just turned 50. We've been friends since, 3rd grade? You know? We family now. We ain't friends no more. We family. Shoot, we've been family since we were children, to tell you the truth. You know, when you know each other's family, cousins, you go with them over to their cousin's house and for birthday parties and all types of stuff. That's family stuff. You know, you family. Forget being friends. But yeah, call your friends, man. The ones you haven't talked to, you know, you I'm sure you, well, maybe you don't, but you got friends that you don't always talk to very often. It might be a whole year go by that you don't speak to them, but y'all know your friends, you know. Call that friend and say, hey, what's up? I ain't talked to you in a long time. You know. I thank God for my friends. I have such very, very good friends. Oh, my God. They are such blessings. I couldn't ask for better friends. When people say, you know, friends won't be there for you, we're all your friends, I can't really sing that song. That's not my testimony. I love my friends. Every last one of them. If I consider you my friend, you are and I am your friend for life. I love my friends. And my friends love me. You know, I use the term friends because we're not related biologically. And that's the purpose of using friends, to make that differentiation. But my friends are family to me. They are an extension of my family. I love them so much. I really do. Each and every one of them. I just love them. Love, love, love them. Just fantastic, great people, admirable people. People I looked up to even when we were kids. Brilliant individuals, intelligent, goal setters, trend setters. Love them. Amazing people. Love them. Every bit of them. Love them. They're so important to me. And I know I'm important to them as well. If I had some eggnog and rum, I would lift my glass for a toast and say, here's to friendship and good people. I salute you. And I salute each and every one of you in the chat room as well. Peace out. And thank you. Thank you for stopping by. And have a great, productive day. Time for me to get out of here. Ciao.